We're good to go.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Ray and Jay Odyssey. I'm one of your hosts, Ray. Across from me is,
Coach.
as you can see, we're back to God of War. Last time we left off, we were doing Hades' challenge. It took us way too long to defeat that Minotaur. Uh, but as a way to kind of transition into things, we have a topic of discussion. And our topic for tonight is mental health. As you might have seen on the title of this, Coach talked about the war that is not seen.
Yeah, it's always alluded to. We did talk about this. We touched on it briefly.
Yeah.
At some point in some of our other discussions. I think right now we can still have access to our war against education. We're trying to keep within the topic here, keep on theme with these different things. So first on was ableism. Last time was education. Now we're topping into the ever-present but under-discussed mental health battle. Because you don't know who another person nearby you is really struggling with.
Yep.
Just gonna get these key points of the game out of here, though.
Don't mind me, just Greg Rob.
Hey man, that's my hat. Give it back. Guess we're gonna have to take it from you.
Oh no, I saw this on the Late Show. You two take it all down. Nibbling on manners and leaving for the buzzers.
That's disgusting. We just want the hat back. Alright.
I do not remember climbing up here, but okay.
I kind of remember the stereotype. But I think what led me to discuss this is, well, a lot of things. I think that our number one demographic is guys.
Yeah.
And therefore, men nowadays are often told to prioritize everything else about themselves.
It's not even about prioritizing themselves. It's prioritizing everyone else. We're the ones to provide. We're the ones to take care of our families. Listen to everyone else. Let them vent. And then maybe we have a chance to open up.
No one hates you. Your progress is impressive, Kratos. But your skills will not carry you to your ultimate goal. I offer you the souls of Hades itself, the souls of the dead, who stand ready to fight by your side.
Army of the
Take
dead.
this weapon, Kratos. Take this power, and use it to defeat your enemies.
You have acquired the Army of Hades. Actually, the up directional button. It's just like Army of Hades. And press L2 to activate.
Is that it? What's the work?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah, what led me to talk about mental health is just knowing that we have a lot of potential guys that are obviously within the category of needing some sort of help.
Yep.
And when you said that, they provide, they do all this other stuff, they make sure that everyone else is taken care of, and then maybe they themselves can get the help. Once they get to that point, they don't know how to do it.
Right.
It's not been taught to them. It's been taught that that was a sign of weakness.
Mhm.
It's been taught to them that it was not to be shown to other people. You know, you kind of do that stuff in private. You know, or you pay for somebody else to talk to you, and you know, don't you dare ever let like one of your closest friends or somebody like kind of hear you do this, because then you never know how they'll actually feel about you afterwards. So it's like there's always a lot of pressure. There's a lot of risk involved for certain people that they genuinely don't know where to turn to, and it is a struggle that you know, hey, we're willing to acknowledge right here until the time that our session is over for it. And not just like right now. Like we're not just gonna care about this for an hour and a half and then just like go back to our business.
Right.
But we want this to help anybody kickstart the week by making sure that the outlets that they have. Uh, there's another one of the things that we touched on before, but the outlets that were given in order to do so, uh, it's not always sufficient, because the way that say like the way that a woman would probably get her feelings out is that she'll talk to her friends. You know, having that kinship in order to use that to touch base with somebody else. Because they're more emotionally driven.
Right.
Men are physically driven. Which means that in however the stress or however the relief needs to come out, it's most likely going to be done through physical labor. And I think that's one of the best components about participating in sports,
Right.
is that it is a physical activity, it is a team component, and you know, you just put your mind down and work on something.
Right.
Right? And if other people benefit from that still, then all the better. You're going to heal yourself a lot faster because you guys are working on some sort of project, and it doesn't have to be sports. But I'm a coach, so I'm going to naturally head towards that one.
Right.
But as one of my favorite lessons is just making sure that you get that bond out there with somebody else in your own needs, right? Uh, you know, nobody's cookie cutter.
Right.
So the methods of grief are going to look different towards each other. But I think most of the time, men will feel better a lot faster when they kind of put their head down, be quiet, and then go about their work.
Right.
And I know that because it's worked for me. I've seen this firsthand within my own self, and I didn't think that it was gonna be something that like really affect or really work on me, because you know I was mostly raised around women, and I figured that something like that would still kind of rub off on me.
Right.
You know, like okay, well maybe their healing mechanisms are going to be uh, integrated with me. That wasn't really the case. Um, I will say that when one of my other cousins passed away a couple years ago, I was trying to get a writing gig for a certain sports group, kind of being a secret little journalist, if you will. Not so much like you know trying to get news and stuff because I wasn't going to be in the area to really grab news like that. But if I could just make articles, and if I can just get conversations that nobody else is really going to bring up, get those started, then I'm doing something that I hope uh, other people benefit from. So that was like the same weekend that happened. Right? So it's like my cousin had passed away, and I really wanted to grieve but I also had this opportunity coming up where I could have done something of myself, and I just took that and just used that to cope. And then I ended up writing like 3 days worth of articles.
Wow.
And most of them got a good amount of traction.
Right.
When the people that brought me on, when they saw like the work I was capable of, then they wanted to put me towards more of a speaking role. Then they wanted to see like how is my stage presence, if you will, how good I am with other people. Right. And thankfully, because if you guys have remembered, we were already in education. We already had the background talk of like, yeah, I've done some public speaking, and I've made sure that I can have some sort of leadership position to show for my capabilities. And do you need to go there?
Maybe.
And they saw it almost right away. So I had at one point was planning on a show, like my very first live stream with them, and I was supposed to have another group of recruits so we can kind of be each other's co-hosts, if you will, see if we can get some sort of chemistry that way.
Right.
Funny enough, one of the people that I was going to be talking to was a youth football coach. And so that's how he got his name of just also being just called coach most of the time. So I'm like, if I go back there, I gotta go back to how I was known over them or over there. And nobody else showed up for the stream.
Wow.
I was by myself for an hour and a half in front of a brand new community that nobody knew, but yet had like at the time I want to say 6,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And about 10,000 followers on Facebook that it was going to eventually reach out to. So I'm like, I was just put right in front of everybody that was already been in that fandom or in that community for I didn't know how many years.
Yeah.
But it was years. So it was a big deal for someone to just be out of nowhere, like no kind of like advertising or whatever. Like nobody got any sort of warning as to what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I think they saw the passion that I had and accepted me. And that was like one of the most gratifying feelings. Because I know that like if I look back, I'm not really gonna be super proud of the way that I handled the first stream. But I think I handled it at my best at the time.
Right.
Obviously now, we've got some extra years under our belts in order to kind of say like, hey, like this is how good I am at talking, this is how good I am at like, holding together a stream setup. Like I've been doing this for a couple years now, just on my own.
Right.
And with some other people too. So but that was how I buckled down and really just replaced my grieving period with something else. Now, you might end up with a similar problem that I had later, where it's like I never really gave myself enough time to still deal and process the feelings. I never gave enough of time at the, years back to really just like move on from it.
Right.
So, like hearing the news like really devastated me, and obviously there's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah.
But then the things that I had control over was like potentially my presence there at the funeral.
Yeah.
Which I didn't intend. Because I knew that like other people that would have been there I would have seen how they would have handled the news.
And
It would never have sat right with me if I saw that up close. So, like, I had to sacrifice that kind of. I had to sacrifice my presence there if it meant that I wasn't going to be a problem for everybody else.
Yeah.
And so, I'm never going to have that opportunity again. But I would much rather have handled it by not attending than by doing the much worse thing and like overreacting and being completely irrational about my behavior. Which is one of the other things that like leads to a lot of different problems nowadays. Is that because guys they just naturally have to learn how to use sadness um, they never really get the head start.
yeah,
So they're at a disadvantage when it comes to like figuring out how to use it properly. So then they use something else, which is, like sadness is when you know that like you can't do anything about it, right? You kind of feel that level of hopelessness about the situation.
yeah,
But then there's the next stage that comes up, and that's anger.
yeah,
Anger's the one that's like, I don't care if I can't do anything about it. I'm going to do something. That's where my mind would have led me there. But I had enough awareness to make sure that I wasn't going to put other people in harm.
yeah.
Now, what that looks like for other people is going to be different.
Right.
Because the different stages of sadness that you'll experience, the different stages of anger that you'll feel, um, you'll have to understand that this is an emotion. These are your feelings. This is not who you are. These are your thoughts, but this is not your character. This is your situation, but it's not your. I'm going to say it's not your presentation. It's not the way that you normally conduct yourself. And I think the people around you will see that if you behave like in good conduct for a consistent period of time. They'll gain that level of trust with you, so that when you eventually break down, it's more out of like reactiveness than it is like a build up moment of like, oh well, he finally snapped.
Yeah. And that just reminds me of what a friend told me a while ago. I don't entirely remember what the situation was, but we were having a discussion about feelings and stuff. And they told me, remember, emotions, feelings are not right or wrong; they just are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feelings get so often weaponized rather than they just get used uh, for good. And you might be thinking, well, coach, how do you use anger for good? You want to take a crack at it before I answer?
I use anger for good.
Yeah.
I would say it's not my number. Using that frustration and stuff to either one, use it in a way that you can be productive. Use it in art, writing your feelings down, creating a poem, what have you, or using it in a way of like explaining yourself without being unnecessarily cruel and mean. That's probably what you want more.
Well, again, it goes back to the cookie cutter. It goes back to like, I'm not going to say that that's a wrong answer, nor am I going to say that that's a right answer for everybody. Um, but if you never think of it as a way for good, then you'll only teach yourself to suppress it. Because as you said, like those emotions are. So when you use sadness, you know, like you can cry. But when you're angry, there's no like blueprint.
Yeah, it's always you want to yell, you want to curse, you want to you want to hit some things, you want to break things, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's why there's rage rooms, there's different types of media and stuff that really like vent it out in their own ways. But like I think for me it's music. Um,
Your progress is impressive, Kratos. But be warned. Once you ascend to the upper levels of the temple, you will not be able to return without Pandora's box.
Okay.
but yeah, the point is that
Pandora's box. He realized it was a monument not only to gods and Olympus, but to Magnus, wood, design. He conquered the lower floors of Pandora's temple, but the very way above has the things.
Okay, you're saying?
you transform it. Because I don't want to shut down the feeling, nor will I think that, you know, always having that anger is invalid. But it only becomes invalid when it goes the wrong outlet. You know, if every time that you were mad and stuff, you like instead like you smoked or something,
Right.
then obviously that's not putting anything good in your system.
No, it's unhealthy. In multiple ways.
Or, you know, if you go into a fighting frenzy, then yeah, that's also unhealthy. Or if you let those thoughts beat yourself up in your mind, that's also unhealthy. Like we're describing vastly different things, but they all have the same impact on the brain.
Right.
It's going to deteriorate.
Right.
So it can either deteriorate yourself physically, it can deteriorate the way that others see you, and it can deteriorate the way that you see yourself.
Kratos had been in service to the gods long enough to know the Harpy had been sent as a warning, a reminder from his former master of the decision that had cost Kratos everything. Had it been that long since he'd almost met his end at the hands of the barbarians? That long since he traded everything, to save himself.
Ares!
The sky split apart, and the god of war stepped through. Descending from Olympus, he saw the makings of a god in a mere mortal. Ares would save Kratos. He would turn him into the perfect warrior, his servant on earth. Only a simple pledge of loyalty was required.
My life is yours, Ares. From this day, I shall carry forth your will.
And his fate was sealed. As promised, Ares rescued his new disciple, bringing forth the power of a god, destroying those who would slaughter Kratos and his men. As for Kratos, only a sword and shield would befit the newest servant of the god of war. The blades of chaos, forged in the foulest depths of Hades. Once attached, the chains remained so, chained and seared to the flesh, a part of the bearer's body, a permanent reminder of Kratos' pledge. In return, ultimate power. The rage of Ares exploded from within. But soon, he would learn the true cost of such power. A cost too high even for Kratos to pay.
Wretched beast! I know who it is you serve. Return to your master. Tell the god of war I am his no longer. Tell him he is not safe while I walk the earth. I will find Pandora's box, and I will use it to see him tremble and fall before me.
See, that's what happens when you like angry. Take over.
The cliffs of madness lie before you. In my grieving, I fear I may have designed a maze with no true way out. If I am right, may the cruel, uncaring God show you the way.
Oh, I can get some magic. So for me, mental health is something I struggle with all of my life, and it really hit me hard in my teenage years. Because of how I grew up, I had an unstable household. Uh, Growing up disabled, I lacked a lot of confidence, so that kind of got to me. But as I got older, I learned to work on that, and I felt good for some time. 17 years old, it's like a truck hit me. It's just, I suddenly didn't want to do anything. I just wanted to stay home. People were calling and texting me. I wasn't answering. I just didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to see anyone. I didn't want to be around anyone. And my mom has depression. And so I finally talked to her about what I was feeling, what I was thinking. And she said, yeah, that sounds like you have depression. And so I was like, what do I do about that? She said, well, you can go to the doctor and maybe, he can send you to a therapist, psychiatrist, maybe get you some medicine. I said, okay. I went. The doctor was a total jerk. And he's like, Well, do you need meds or not? I don't know. I'm just dealing with these thoughts, these feelings, and I need to figure out what I can do. Well, it's either you need medicine or not. Okay, I guess not, man. And it's been these thoughts of worthlessness, these thoughts of feeling like no one actually cares. People are around me just out of pity, just for their own benefit in some way. Not that they actually like me for who I am. And those were thoughts that I just kind of struggled with. And to this day, still kind of do. They're not as intense, they're not as loud, but they are there. And, Coach, you mentioned about the different outlets and the ways to kind of deal with those. And, as we mentioned before, most guys, they turn to anger. They turn to these unhealthy ways because they weren't taught how to. So,
They weren't taught how to be sad.
Yeah. And I was one of those people for a while. I was very angry for a while. And I knew that, like, okay, I don't want to deal with this in an unhealthy way. I don't want to use my anger to deal with this. But the other avenues that I tried, it seems like that was just looked down on. That was, critiqued. I've tried writing. It wasn't supported. People talk trash on that. I tried exercise, and that's been the biggest thing. But that even got people upset. So, while I guess there are people who don't know how to be sad and deal with all these feelings and anger, and they end up just doing it, and people judge them for that. Even when you seem to have healthy ways of doing it, people judge you for that.
Yeah, it's really tough when, like, you're trying to do things for your own sake, and the people that are around you and they don't want to see you succeed in doing those things. Like, that's such a weird thing to be mad at for somebody writing. Like, how does it possibly affect you in any sort of way?
Right.
As you're never going to be the one to read. Like, how do you consider that somebody else's waste of time? It's like, whatever the method that it is, like, you have to breathe so much belief into it that it cannot be suppressed by others. And this is where, like, it doesn't matter how simple or how complicated the methods are that you choose.
Yeah.
You have to be devoted to it. You have to make sure that whatever the amount of work that you're willing to put in for other things in your life, you're willing to put towards yourself. Because it has to come from that place where you normally have your sense of motivation, your sense of willpower, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, because at that point you're just doing something else,
Yeah.
and then that may feel like it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
But when you fully invest in your belief system, you fully invest in ways to help yourself out. Then, like you said, for exercising, it's become a long-term passion.
Mhm.
It's become something that's like, you can translate that, as I've mentioned, into something good. Because now you not only just have strength for yourself,
Yeah.
but you have strength for others. Because like that part of you was always there, and you know I don't know where your brain goes when you have those thoughts.
Yeah.
But it's like if it's of weaknesses or weaklessness.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's a word.
Yeah.
Then you've built yourself up.
Right.
I think one of my coping mechanisms is humor.
Yeah.
And I think where that stems from is my desire to see others smile and laugh. Right? So it's like if I know how to make myself laugh,
Right.
then that's going to carry me into most of these other interactions. One of the earliest things that I look for if I'm trying to make a connection with somebody is I want to see like where their sense of humor is.
Yeah. Right.
Because then it can translate into like how much can I affect them using my means of making myself happy. Like, does it make them happy?
Right.
And if it doesn't, then I move on to the next method. Or if they're truly not happy with me, then I move on to the next person. But what matters is that I gave it my best.
Right.
I put that effort in.
Statue of Aphrodite appears as if she once wore a necklace.
I try putting that towards.
Yeah.
Letting it be useful. No, it's tough because like strength is an objective thing, humor is a subjective thing. You know, as you said, like you can be criticized for making yourself stronger for whatever reason. Yeah, but I can also see like how you can take jokes too far.
Yeah.
You know, or you have too much of it to the point where it's hard for others to take you seriously in certain moments.
Yeah.
Or uh, you struggle with other social interactions because all you're thinking of is the next way to be funny.
Yeah.
Because then that becomes a source of validation.
You don't know how to connect any other way. You don't know how to just converse.
Right. And so that leads to, you know, other social issues, and that leads to probably tacking on to your feelings of sadness. So yeah, we see that in ourselves. You have so much. Choose whatever you want to upgrade.
Yeah. Okay.
I was wondering when you were going to get to the screen.
Yep. Yeah. Finish this one. Vulnerability, stronger freeze beam. Gorgon Flash. Instant freezing on Gorgon Flash, air. I just finally looked at the number and saw how many there were. I'm like, oh, I should probably start using some of this.
Uh huh.
Wait, power increase. All right. Immortal Souls.
Down.
Ooh.
Because you do use that one for the long range guys.
Yeah. That's max. Sweet. I'm gonna get started on this. My main. Okay.
All right. Yes. To those wondering, he has finally paid attention to it.
And Statue of Hera. Here's she wants more necklace. So I need to find 2 necklaces.
Where's the nearest jewelry store?
And but yeah, depression is a very ugly thing. And for me, you know, people say I'm funny, and I feel like I'm unintentionally funny. If I intentionally make a joke, it's usually, about my disability in some way. And in fact, I did it today at work. And it's nothing, too harsh on myself. They're just, silly little things that you can kind of chuckle at. Oh, that was such a dumb way to die. But my way of coping is just being there for others, and that
Oh crap!
well, okay. So the problem is, it didn't save those last couple ones that I got. Yep. So
Oh yeah, you were like 42.
Yep. So I had to kill these guys again. I like to be there for others. I let them vent and listen, best I can, and offer advice in ways, in situations. Most of the time, people just need someone to listen. That's how I try to help. Because again, I know how it feels to have no one really listen to you. And it's like I want to be that person that you can turn to. You know, this is not exactly the same thing, but pretty similar in that I have been pretty quiet at work, so to say. Um, there's people that I chat with here and there, um, but no one I would really call a friend just yet. And because of this, minding my own business, stay to myself, several times I have been in the break room with different coworkers. And each time they're about to say something, whether that's about someone else or, venting in some way, they turn around, they see me, and they go, "Oh, wait, I can continue because, I trust him." So, like, even without me really being there to listen to these individuals, for them to get to know me truly, just what I've done is enough. Like, yeah, I can trust him that he won't say anything, won't judge me for what I'm about to do or say.
And they feel that way because of how rare it is.
Yeah,
Because it's a commodity within somebody.
right.
Um,
Yeah. You know, it's like at least I can say that about myself is that I've managed to build up that character to where people know they can trust me.
Absolutely.
And it's like I think that's why it hurts so much at times when I get into disagreements with people and they're quick to say certain things that imply that they don't trust me anymore, or that oh, I thought you were this way. And it's like, yeah, this is just a petty argument. It, nothing about that really changes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like,
Yeah, that's another thing that we can talk about too. Is like where the source of said sadness stems from.
right.
Um, because they could just be events that took place around you.
Mhm.
These uncontrollable tragedies.
Mhm.
I think of like those dealing with the natural disasters and stuff. It's like they have lost their true ability to be safe. And I think of like refugees having to flee from their home.
Yeah.
Because of another war going on.
Yeah.
And that like they're going into everything where everybody else is looking at them through a hostile lens
Mhm.
because of again like stereotypes that they have no control over, or whether that be just like a culture difference that people aren't willing to care about for you, or there's there's a lot of other things where it's like, okay, even if you just
You're saying every single time. Why?
gosh, why is the checkpoint so far away from this section?
You know what? Forget it. I'm doing this.
Yeah, use it now.
Well, I'm upgrading my main weapon.
Curious about the new attacks.
Yeah. Lance of the Furies, Lance of the Furies Air, my Hercules, Athena's Blessing, Magic Ball, Rage of the Gods is active.
Nice.
Okay. Maxed it out.
Nice. Keep it that way, please.
Yeah. But anyways, as you were saying.
Yeah, there's unfortunately no shortage of discrimination.
Mhm.
And so, like, you could just be born and people hate you.
Yeah.
And you may feel like you can never get past that point from others. Like, no matter what you do, no matter how you act and stuff. And I know that, like, um, there is a probably a multi-part conversation that we can have on the quote unquote gender war because I there's no shortage of stories. There's no shortage of topics within that. It's its own genre right now.
Yeah.
But we want to save something like that for later.
Right.
Because right now, like, if you don't get yourself in that right mindset to accept the information that it is, then people could just use it to fuel their negativity further.
Right.
And it's like we need to feed into that type of crowd.
Right.
But it is something that like you also cannot ignore. But while there's a lot of discriminations, I think that the ultimate solution is to, like as long as you are here with us, as long as you are, present on Earth, then you will have a purpose for somebody else. So keep treating that self in the manner that you would want to be treated. It's not uncommon knowledge,
Yeah.
but it's also not commonly applied.
Yeah.
So it's weird how like something like that again gets taught elementary school, and yet something like that doesn't stick.
Right. I think that's why I'm at a good place as far as like my job. Just because I work with kids, autistic kids, and with discrimination, you're gonna, like you said, everyone's gonna face it at some point, whether that's because of your age, your gender, your ethnicity, your level of intelligence. You're gonna face it, and I just think about, I hope I'm doing everything I can for these kids and giving them skills that they continue to carry on for the rest of their lives. That when they do face that kind of discrimination, because it's going to happen, as sad as it is, it's going to happen, they know how to handle it.
Yeah, like did you implement the skills that they need in order to handle it?
My soul has been shattered. The path forward is fragmented. Build my soul on a good path.
Yeah, it's a ripple effect. And it's unfortunate that like you may never see the wave that it causes.
Yeah.
But that's never an excuse to take yourself out of it.
Right.
Like if you were there for the sole purpose of lending the helping hand, then that is your responsibility to do so. So what should this look like? This puzzle here.
Well, you basically have to fill in this entire space.
Ah.
No.
Okay, so what are all of our pieces?
Okay, we're gonna T. We got an I or an L. We got part of a question mark.
We have a rotating piece in the middle. T. The other thing I was gonna say was that like relationships, for example, right? How it can affect the reason as to why you get in one.
Yeah.
It affects the reason as to why you're out of one. It's it plays a big role in not just your life, but also your partner's life. So it should be greatly valued. But the other person has to value it.
Yeah.
This is not the one-way street that
Yeah.
others seem to think that it is.
Right.
Oh, there's that piece off in the corner too.
Right.
I think one of the most vague pieces of information that people will feed you, especially like when you lose a relationship, is people often say just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm sure that they've already thought of that.
Yeah. And that's definitely like, oh, that's more easier said than done.
Right. I don't think you need that piece at all.
Yeah.
Because then you just put that there, that one there.
So.
Because it's like, again, we're going back to the cookie cutter. Like, it doesn't look the same for anybody.
Yeah.
So when you just say focus on yourself, like, okay.
What does that mean?
Because sometimes, like, if one relationship fails, then one relationship just failed.
Yeah.
You kind of serve it as an elimination process. Depending on, you can say like how it failed. You can certainly see like the steps that it took. But if you don't even know that, right? Like if just one day your partner just up and does something that whether you had anything to do with it or not. Like, they were probably going to do that. Then you've just eliminated somebody from your equation that, depending on how early in the stage that it is or how late in the stage of a relationship that it is, like, if they show their hand early, then that's the more the easier path to recover from. But if it's like late stage, and I'm seeing a lot of stories that involve, like, decades plus long marriages just randomly up and just gone. And I'm like, yeah, how is there any way to avoid that? How is there any way to know that somebody was going to be in that position? It's like, I don't think you just necessarily tell that person to work on themselves, because, like, it's likely that they're already a finished product, and like, if they're already been in that, like, long span of relationship, and they knew how to take care of them. So it's like they already possess enough qualities to show that they deserve to be in one. Now, is it with that person? Not anymore. And sometimes you just have to take those measures.
Yeah.
But what that says about that person, it's inconclusive.
Yeah.
And that's more of a good thing, because if it's not obvious to you as to why, like, you were the problem, as to, like, why it was a problem, then you probably weren't the reason for it.
Right.
Unless if you're just, straight up delusional and not self-aware, then that's a whole other issue in and of itself. But
Yeah.
I don't think we have that kind of community.
And also too, I feel like people get into relationships for wrong reasons.
Right.
Some get into relationships just because they're so afraid to be alone. That this is some sort of achievement for them.
Where it's like the idea of being in one is more impressive than actually caring for the person that you're in the relationship with.
Yep. I had a woman who dated me, and things were fine. Things worked out great. And we only broke up because I realized, like, oh, this is getting serious. I need to be a better man for her. So I told her, like, I need time to work on myself, because, like, I am not in a position to provide for you, to be this person that you need me to be for this serious relationship. Well, shortly after that discussion, like, I was totally intending to get back with her, because I just needed some time to really buckle down and do some things. Well, shortly after that, we got into arguments all the time. It was just constant fights. And it's like, oh, okay, this isn't gonna work then. And I just kind of called things off. Well, sometime afterwards, um, she's with the guy she told me not to worry about. And then soon found out she had made a comment to me one time. Like, time had passed, she was still with him, and I was just like, what changed? Because when we were together, you talked so much trash about him. And, it's like, oh, he's this, he's that, and now you're suddenly with him. She said the worst thing she could have said, which was like, oh, well, I could learn to love him. Learn to love him. You're going to hurt this man's heart. Like now I see like, oh, you were only with anyone really because you just wanted to be in a relationship. That was an achievement to you. It was an accomplishment. It's a trophy you can display. See, look, I'm with someone. And not that you care about them as a person.
And it's weird because like I thought that mostly it would be guys that would be seeking that kind of validation. Because according to a number of other women, like nothing is more attractive than a married person. Because they are the realization of the potential. Whereas like if you're dating in the demographic of like, my age range, for example, like mid late 20s, so it's like, okay, your potential may not be fully realized, but as long as you show yourself having it, then that could be good enough.
Yeah.
But to other people, it's not good enough. And so they got to go up, they got to go down, they got to go whatever the case may be in order to satisfy that other desire that, like, to a degree, I understand because it's a lot less work when you've already had a finished product. It's like, oh hey, like if I already made a batch of cookies, then I don't want to suddenly start making another. I want to enjoy the one that it's already in front of me. And there's that level of like seeing people as like a project instead. But it just goes back to like, okay, we're off balance as far as like our reasons for being together. And if that's felt early, again, then there's methods to deal with that.
Yeah.
But often enough, it's not felt until much later. Where it's like, okay, well, now that you've already worked yourself up and you are your own finished product, they no longer see you as the realization or of the potential that they had in mind.
Right.
Maybe you are your best self at that stage. But if they thought better, then they're disappointed.
Right.
And that's an impossible battle to win.
Yeah.
Because like you only have your one life here. And yet people are going to try to use that for their power, for their status, if you will. Like they're going to use that however they see fit, rather than just appreciating what's there.
Grass is always greener on the other side.
And then sometimes, they make the leap and realize that they just landed on green concrete.
Oh, this is painted.
It's like, oh yeah, this was only fabricated to look like a good idea. But afterwards, it's rugged, it's cold, and it's got no life to it. But grass can recover.
Yeah.
But you need the right resources. You need the time to invest in it.
Yep.
And it needs its own sense of development that you may not be able to control. but others will be grateful when you try.
Right. What am I missing?
Um, family upbringings is a cause for a lot of people's state of depression. Um, I know that for me, I had been abused for a while by my stepfather's girlfriend at the time. And I was in that situation for 6 years. And it was an every other weekend thing. And it's like the helplessness really settled in. Because it's like, what do you mean I can't avoid this? You know, it's like, what do you mean I have to be over there?
Yeah.
Because that was the custody thing. Yeah, like that. I was, around people that hated me from as young as 6 years old, and it just kept getting worse. Now it's like, thankfully, I don't have enough of those, battle scars on me.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. I just forgot what I was supposed to do for a second.
Man, again, these backtrack. Okay, that's not that far away. Actually.
Yeah. You know, and speaking of like family trauma, Coach, you know what I've been through when I've talked about stuff going on with my family. But there's one incident in particular that actually terrifies me. And that is because it's the one memory I have actually repressed. I only remember. Ooh.
That was weird. You were able to walk on it for a second.
Yeah.
You've only what?
I only remember parts of it. And that is, weekends I spent with my dad. The rest of the time I was living with my mom. So one weekend in particular, my mom picked me up. Like she picked me up and also one of my sisters. And she remembers that one of us had called her to say, hey, come get us now. Like this is important. And she picked us up. Ooh. My sister was crying. She got in the back seat. I got in the front seat. I turned around. I was looking at my sister for a while, and then I just calmly said to my mom, "I never want to see that man again." And it was a long time before I went back to visit him. I don't remember what happened. And it's like, I've been through some stuff. Like, last time we were streaming, and I opened up about my brother getting attacked by a dog. Sure, that's not necessarily like, family abuse, but it's something traumatic,
Right.
and that's the tip of the iceberg. Imagine what I would experience just from my family alone. And it's like that is the one thing I repressed. The only other one who can answer that is my sister. And I don't want to have the conversation with her
Don't blame you.
because it's like, in the end, what is it really going to solve? I don't find myself, feeling upset or holding any kind of animosity or anything that is preventing me from moving forward in my life. So all this is going to do is just bring up that pain again.
I do think that there's a skill in talking about those moments while still taking your feelings out of it and looking at certain things in an objective way. Like if you can recall it but not relive it.
Yeah.
Like that is a skill.
Yeah.
That if you learn for yourself, then you can teach unto others. Because, like I just said, like I was in a 6-year pattern of abuse, and yet I don't have a lot to show for it. So in some ways, I'm like one of the lucky ones, if you will. But that doesn't mean that it was only just the one method of abuse that was used. A lot of times, especially when it's like with a certain characteristic that leads the way in a person, it becomes evident that they're skilled in their sadistic ways.
Yeah.
It's when it's to the point where it's like, if you tell people that it happened to you, how will they believe it? It's something like that where it's like they can damage you in a way that you may not know how to put into words, and therefore you can't speak on it. Because what are you going to do? You're an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey, your imagination's just running wild on you. You're just more vulnerable to like gaslighting tendencies and other levels of manipulation. And the things that like it's a way that other people won't know that you've been hurt. And this is kind of why something like this was titled, The War That People Don't See.
Yep.
Because I've been in situations where people thought I was making it up.
It's horrible. That's really horrible.
And then when they didn't believe that, then they had a hard time believing the next thing when I was in peril. Then they had a hard time believing the next thing when I needed help. Then they had a hard time believing that, something else in the future. And it's like,
you're whining, you're making a big deal out of nothing. It's those kind of comments.
or, you'll get over it. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to devastate a person.
Yep.
And it doesn't seem like there's enough ways to undo the damage.
To heal that.
But one thing that will always be there for you is your level of availability. Uh, availability for others, availability for yourself. Uh, it saves a lot more people than you'll ever realize.
Yeah.
And one of the worst statistics that doesn't get talked about enough is the rate of those that give up. And it's what it looks like when uh, their sadness and their anger it combines to something that they act upon, and so they use self-harm for it.
People just want the pain to stop.
Before Kratos was
And sometimes they'll do it in their own hands.
And I remember someone putting it this way: it's like when people choose to do that, they don't realize that you're not getting rid of that pain. You're not getting it to stop. You're just giving it to your family.
Yeah, because I've seen it too.
And so many times, people think, oh, if only they would have said more, if only they would have reached out, if only I could have just like. Sometimes you don't notice it. Sometimes people are afraid to reach out to talk about it.
Kratos' army was ruthless, feared throughout the world for their brutality. All that mattered was conquest in the name of Kratos, their great leader, who had become near invincible. He feared nothing. But there was something about this tale, something forbidden. All his instincts told him he should never cross its threshold. Never step inside. Beware, Kratos. The dangers in the temple are greater than you know. But the village oracle's warning fell on deaf ears. His ambition would not be denied. All who opposed him would die.
Really put the word on the scale there.
In that instant, the glory he had reveled in turned to horror. The image of his two final victims would stay with him for all his days. With that act, Kratos knew he could no longer serve his master. He had but one calling now, the death of Ares. He would murder the god of war.
Ares, you will die for what you did that night.
Were you saying something before?
It's just that, when someone commits that act of, self harm to the point where they're gone, family and friends have so much to say and, think, coulda, shoulda, woulda so much. And it's like, well, one, it's why it's so important to have that open line of communication with your loved ones, but also, too, like creating a space to where when someone is fighting those thoughts, you know, they can go to you and tell you, like, hey, this is going through my head and not be judged for it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what people are afraid of. Just like, oh, they're just going to judge me for it, or this is just going to be another situation uh, where they tell me, you know, uh, it's all in my head to suck it up, and it's so unfair.
Now, there are a lot of people that, they genuinely don't know how to handle that situation if it was brought onto them.
Mhm.
So, in some ways, they are kind of being decisive. But there you go. It won't really let you swing backwards, does it? Oh. Huh?
I landed below.
Uh,
Yeah.
well, you landed even more below.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why, if there are people that are around you that like, that they wouldn't be able to handle it, then there are people whose job it is to handle it. They got a whole hotline for it. And it's not just for the worst case scenario, although there is like a lot of people that that make decisions before that buffer reaches out to them.
Right.
Of like, oh, hey, I should do something else before I make this decision.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just comes from a place where it's like they didn't want to burden anybody else with their situation. And it's like, how do you figure out how to stop others from thinking that?
Right.
Well, there was a psychiatrist that put it best. It's like no amount of medication will be the full substitute for what love can do.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's not a whole lot of it that goes around.
Yeah.
But it can be found within anyone.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about these grand acts like, oh, if you're really sad, then we just need to put like a Mr. Beast level of hype into this thing, and then you'll have your storybook ending.
Right.
Wow, that was a much better swing.
Yep. There.
Because like people just don't need that. But they need to find peace within themselves.
You know, it makes me think of this post that I saw from a parent uh, who has a kid with a disability the same as me, and they posted online saying that their kid is dealing with loneliness, not having friends, not fitting in, and you know, parents want to do. This parent wants to do everything they can to help, and you know, I used to be that kid, feeling like no one wanted to be around me. I didn't fit in. I stick out, and yet it's just nothing I could do would ever uh, make me like anyone else. And so this parent is asking for help, and it's like, for me, what changed is learning how to take an interest in other people and not just, you know, talking at them. But I don't know that that can really be taught without coming across as, you know, robotic.
Oh, I'm just going to say condescending in a way.
Mm. So, and
And I only say that because, like, if you have a method of like solving things from easiest to hard solutions, then if you use something like, oh, let's try something simple here, then they may think that, like, oh, do you think that I'm too stupid to think of that for myself?
yeah, I don't know why I missed that.
Hmm. But like, before it starts with the um, knowledge, it starts with the passion.
Yeah.
And that's more of the thing that, like, it's difficult to teach. Uh, I've heard the term "fake it till you make it" being used in a lot of different ways, but
Yeah.
one of them can be the passion.
Yeah.
But it's not really like faking it, but it's pretending as though you already have it.
Mhm.
And if you keep that, not so much facade, but how did I not double jump? But if you keep that hope alive, then you'll see that it is worth, you know, taking that interest, taking that leap to learn somebody else. Is that jump just so much farther away than anything else? Like,
I don't.
it
know.
doesn't feel like it's this. Doesn't feel like it's a different amount of distance,
Right.
and yet he just doesn't make the jump.
Right. this is like, it's just one of those points in the game where the stick drift just really wants to pick up right now.
Yeah, we may need to get a new controller.
Yeah. But on this topic about mental health and things, like I there's so many out there who have gone through the same things as me, and they're still where I was years ago. And I want to help. I want to reach out, have conversations with them, but at the same time, I just get this feeling that what I learned, what I uh, have done to build myself up, can't exactly be taught. And maybe I'm wrong for thinking that, but it's hard to explain. Wait, did that switch go back up?
Well, it's a pressure plate. Is there anything nearby here you can move?
No, because that would be too easy.
Well, then, when you're going back, like, what are you trying to do?
Well, because the puzzle is that I can press the button on that side. That opens one half of the door.
Right.
So if I can come back, press this, then race back before it closes, then I got it. So
I don't think it'll work that way.
that's the way they're showing me it's gonna do. Just
It doesn't seem like it should work that way.
yeah. But welcome to the puzzle games from back in the day.
Let's see. I think that there's kind of going back to the main topic here, but I want to touch on something different. Is the role models, specifically the lack of role models.
Oop, ah. No. Oh.
There's like we have a lot of people that want to stream. We have a lot of people that want to be quote unquote available to the common person. But there's also a common phrase. It's like never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
So when you choose like who it is that you wish to support, because people often, they will outsource their potential and give it to somebody else because they don't think they're worthy of having it. So they will look to other people and be like, "Hey, I want you to have this attention. I want you to distract me. I want you to, be this plug to fill a hole in my life." So then they get the level of attachment that, now granted, like, it's not unhealthy to want a connection with somebody. But it becomes unhealthy when that is the
Well, I think it's a good stopping point.
if you can stop here.
Yeah, I got the check over.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Let me just get this out of the way. Because role models. When you try to look for somebody that you would like to have a role model for, it is not unhealthy to want it, but it is unhealthy when it replaces your attention that you can give to yourself. Because then it's just looking for validation in a spot where it's like you cannot reach it. Like if I wanted to be close friends with a Kai Cenat, I can't do it.
Yeah.
He's just way too unapproachable to someone like me.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, he's a big figure.
Mhm.
He's one of the leading people on this platform. And he's got a lot of reasons behind him to be in that position. But none of it can benefit one specific person so personally to that degree. Now, I'm not saying that he's not like worthy of being a potential role model. I think he's doing a lot of good. Like one of the things that he's been doing a lot better is reading. Right, so he will read in front of his audience for at least like 15 minutes or something in a book, just like trying to get better at something as one of his hobbies. And he's not really like trying to do it for the attention, but he wants to kind of like shine an importance on what it can do for someone if they just take the time for themselves. And so it's like he's clearly giving the people a lesson. He's using his platform for one portion of the platform for that sort of purpose, where it's like, okay, like let's reset yourself mentally, because he's someone that will go on stream for hours and hours and hours, right? So at some point in the day, like you gotta give yourself something to be proud of, right? And if it is going to be something like reading, then let it be that. Don't think of it as a small feat. Think of it as a seed of hope for yourself. You plant seeds for the purpose of watching something grow so that you can bear its fruitage in the future.
Yeah.
And you can never really plant too many seeds if that's the case. However, those seeds need attention. Those seeds need the ability to grow. And if you just abandon them after you've planted them, then you're not doing yourself any favors.
Right.
So start off with one seed. See how well that does for you. And then once you've sprouted that into something that you're proud of, then either show it off for yourself or relive it again, creating another seed.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like for that person. But I do know that the effort is worth it. So with that, we've covered this topic as best as we could with the hour and 47 minutes that we were given.
Yep.
And I think, like, as far as the game, we made a lot more progress
Yeah.
too. So, about how much would you say is left?
Not entirely sure. Not much.
Any like key events that you remember, like that have to happen right now, or that have yet to happen?
Well, after this, the next flashback we get is the explanation of why Kratos is white.
Okay,
Why he's known as the Ghost of Sparta.
got it.
Yeah.
So with that, we shall potentially see you guys tomorrow. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to look like or what game that will even be. But until then, Ray, what is our recap for right now?
Well, we had an interesting night. And a lot of good discussion about mental health and different things that factor into that. So just remember, folks, there's always help out there. Reach out to who you can. Talk to someone when you're having those kind of thoughts. And don't give in to the negativity, whether that's from outside sources or inside your own head. There is a way out. There always is. So, that in mind, lock your doors, lock your windows, travel safe, and don't die.
And we shall see you next time. Thanks for watching.